Hello, I'm Dr. Rosie Kuhn, and this series is called I Want to Be a Better Coach. And today I want to talk about coaching people who are in natural disasters and um, fires, hurricanes, blizzards, war zones, all kinds of places where people are in crisis and they don't have anyone to talk to. My friend in LA reached out to me and said, "Hey, I don't know about you." She said, I'm going to be coaching some people just to support them, and I'm wondering if you're open to coaching a few people I know that need some support." And she said, "Are you open to that?" And I said, "Sure," but at the same time, I was going, "Wait a second, I don't know. I don't know if I can do that." In a sense that uh, my I want to empower people to move forward in their lives, and how can that be valuable and supportive to people where they are in this moment where they've lost everything, which means they may have lost hope. They feel powerless and helpless. Like, how can I be of value to them? What would be something that I would bring to them or could be for them? And so I said yes. And in all my trainings, I have done some crisis counseling and things like that. So I thought, in terms of being a better coach, part of what we can do is grow that capacity to just be with people where they're at, without any expectation or any attachment that we should be taking them someplace further, or that we should be doing something different, or that they need to do something different, that we need to fix them or they need fixing of any sort. So I thought I would offer this to you today, as a way of kind of maybe um, inspiring you to reach out to people or um, centers or places where you can offer volunteer coaching to support people where they're at. So, one of the things I want to say about that is, a friend of mine, Karen Glant, once shared with me something that was shared with her, in a sense that she said, we're not life coaches, we're life coaches. And as life coaches, we're sitting with people in with them as they're being in their life. So individuals who are victims of these forms of types of disasters where they have lost everything. This is a life a life issue, in a sense. This is where people need to be seen, heard, and gotten. And as a life coach, I could sit with them as they're being in their life. And for me, there's no greater gift than I could give to be this life coach and not have any expectations or outcome that should happen here, but just be with them where they're at. So I've got my notes here, so I keep looking down here, wherever I'm looking by the camera. Um, so again, whether it's the fires um, in LA area, whether it's the hurricanes in Florida and wherever things are happening, um, people need support. They need to have somebody who can hear them and listen. You might say, "Well, I don't know how to do that. I've never done that before." But all of your training as a coach, and perhaps you've been trained as a therapist or other listening processes, you've been trained to sit with people and listen. And again, I'm going to probably repeat this 3, 4, 5 times. The ability to see, hear, and get people where they're at, is all you need to do. And you might say, "I don't know how to be with people when they're in this state of being." Well, guess what? They don't know how to be in this state of being either. They don't know how to do themselves. They don't know how to be with such loss, such trauma, such crisis. They don't know. And to have anybody reach out and say, "Hey, I see you, I hear you, I get you, I'm here for you." That's, for me, one of the biggest gifts we can bring to people, is to let them know we see, hear, and get them. So, and this was a challenge for me, especially when I was learning to be a therapist or a spiritual guide, was, wait, I don't know how to have these conversations. I don't know how to have a conversation as a therapist. I didn't know how to have a conversation as a spiritual guide or spiritual companion. I didn't know how to have a client, a coach. Sorry, I didn't know how to have a conversation as a coach. I had to have the experience, sit with people where they're at, and learn in the moment. Even though I had all this training, I still had to show up and go, okay, I gotta do this because it's important to me. So you may say, I don't know how to sit with people and be in their helplessness, their powerlessness. And as I just said, they don't know how to be there either. They don't know how to have these conversations either. And this is part of the challenge for us I've heard that, the sooner an individual can talk about their experience, the less trauma is sort of driven in. They express whatever's happening, and then they don't have to carry that trauma with them. They actually have the ability to release it and let go of it. So the sooner that we can support and empower people to speak their experience, their life experience, the more easy their transition is into what's next for them. And we don't know what that is. They don't know what that is. It looks like a big zero for them. And we might go, I don't know how to do this. And it's like, I totally get it. I totally get it. Because I know what it's like. I see, hear, and get you in that place of I don't know how to do this. And that's why when my friend reached out and said, hey, would you do this? It's like, I don't know if I can be helpful. It's like, well, let's look at this. Look at how we can be helpful, how we can be supportive, how we can empower people. And one of the things I'm learning just by being in life is that having community and connection and engaged connection where people show up for each other, that's like so important to our well-being. So if we can do that for others, that's a really good thing. And if you're learning to be a coach or training to be a coach, here's a really good opportunity for you to work with people who need you, if nothing else, just to be there and listen. Just listen. So I wanted to kind of look at a few of the things that show up when people are in crisis and they've lost everything. So what most people will experience is hopeless, helpless, and powerless. And that's just a foundation. It's because, in a sense, in our existence, we will experience these things over and over again in various different ways. And so you might say, I've never experienced losing everything in a fire or a hurricane. I've never experienced war. I've never experienced the loss as these people have. I don't know how. But you have had places where you have lost things and felt powerless and felt hopeless. You might have had a breakup with a partner or an individual, or have lost an animal as a pet, or lost your job. Places where you are feeling emotions that you didn't know how to talk about. But you have the capacity for empathy. In a sense, you can go, I know where I have felt loss. I know where I have felt that hopelessness. I know where I have felt grief and sadness. When you know that in yourself, you can know it in another person. And that's very healing. Even to say, hey, I don't know about losing everything. I know what it's like when I lost my dog. And it was sucked. So I can only imagine the degree to which you're going through suckness, whatever your language is. So the more that you can just listen and hear and be present to that level of loss, that level of powerless, hopeless, helpless, that's a huge gift you're giving people. So you may have been trained in grief counseling or heard what elements of grief are important to that people are experiencing. One of them is shock, especially for people who in very short period of time lost everything. I mean, certainly shock is a huge process that they're in. They're in the shock, like they can't even talk about it. They don't even know what they're feeling. They don't even know. They just are in it. And that's something good for you to know. It's like they're just in it. And if you can see them and know them as in it, like, it makes perfect sense. You're in this. And that's a phrase I use a lot, makes perfect sense. And it says, it makes perfect sense that you feel what you feel. It makes perfect sense that you're in shock and overwhelmed. You don't know what's next. It makes perfect sense. And if nothing else, for me, that has been such an important um, sentence to say. It makes perfect sense that you're angry. It makes perfect sense you're sad. It makes perfect sense that you're overwhelmed. Because it does. I can say that in all rightness, if you will. It makes perfect sense that whatever they're feeling, they're feeling. And you don't have to make it right or wrong. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to fix or heal. You don't have to get them into an outcome like, let's get you started, let's get you back to. They just need someone to listen to and hear them and see them and get them. Again, I'm just repeating myself again. So when people are in crisis, they often feel shock, especially when they've lost everything. Nowhere to go, nothing to do in that moment, but just in the big, what we call the big fat be with. It's a big fat be with. And so when we can acknowledge that for people, this is just a big fat be with. And you totally get what that's like to the degree that you can, and it makes sense. That's really valuable to people, just to have your presence in that state. And in the grief, so there's in grief process, there's the shock, there's what they call bargaining, where people are saying, just give me my house back, or just give me my art back, just give me my knitting back, just give me my dog back. There's a bargaining element of that people go through. And they go through stages of sadness and anger and depression. And one doesn't come before the other, and one doesn't come more than the other. We don't know how it's going to go, because every one of us is unique and different. But that you can anticipate, people are going to feel sad or mad or bad through this process. It makes sense. So it makes sense for you to be present to, wow, I get how angry you are, or I get how sad you are. I get how bad you feel. Because they may not have any other words than sad, mad, or bad. They may never have had any opportunities to talk about their feelings before. So you may be the first person that they come into contact with that is asking them questions or just being present to, wow, this is a big time for you. And ask, what can I do for you? How can I support you? Or what would you like to hear from me? So it doesn't mean anything other than I am here to support you. And it's like, when I ask the question of people, what do you want to hear from me? They may say, I want to hear from you that I'm going to get my house back, or I'm going to get, my dog back. I want to hear from you that I'm going to get it all back. And I'll go, I totally get it. I'm not making any promises when I ask that question, what do you want to hear from me? But it offers an opportunity for them to say, here's what I want to hear from you. I want to hear that these fires miraculously never existed, and I'm back to who I was and what I was all doing. And I want to hear from you that I'm not, going to be going through a horrible, terrible life because this happened. I want to hear that it's all going to be good. Something good will come out of this. So I'm listening and I'm hearing. I go, yeah, I totally get that. I totally get that's what you're wanting me to say. And I will tell you, you will come through this. And I will tell you that something better and greater is coming out of this that you have no idea is happening. And it may not help you to hear that now, but I have no doubt that that's true. So the grief process and there's obviously all kinds of YouTube videos out there where you can go and look at what's the grief process. What does it look like? What do I say? How do I talk to it? There's all that. They're all out there already. I'm just putting my 2 cents out here too, to say, people are going to feel sad, mad, and bad. And for you to hold them and support them in that way the best you can, that's all you can do. And if you feel like you're over your head or that people are needing better attention, then you say, hey, I need to reach out to other people to get you support. And you might call 911. If they're feeling suicidal, which it would make sense, some people go, I just want to die. I don't want to face the insanity. And what people are facing in these huge um, climate change patterns, the fires and the hurricanes and all that kind of stuff, including the wars that are happening, it's insanity. And it doesn't mean mental disorder. It means the insanity of the real life that no longer exists right now. The insanity of the material world that just disappeared. And for us to go, I get it. It's insane what you're being with right now. And it creates insanity. Not, again, in terms of people losing their minds. And especially if you can or others can listen to them in a way that says it makes perfect sense you're feeling this way. It makes perfect sense. There's an insanity that's occurring right now because it doesn't make sense in terms of people having their life the certain way and one day, and then the next day it's just totally blown up. It's insane. And if we can hold that for them in a good way, then that helps them go, it is insane, and I'm still here. And I'm still here, and it's okay, and I will get through today. So, again, in a sense, the grief that people go through, sometimes it's anger and rage. Sometimes it's deep sadness. Sometimes it's depression. They don't feel anything. And especially in that state of shock, it's too big. And so they just shut down. And that makes sense. And if we can make sense for them and go, it makes sense you're not feeling anything. It makes sense you're numb, or it makes sense you're angry, or it makes sense you're sad. Then we help people, in a sense, normalize. This is what normal for what one goes through in any crisis situation, an earthquake, whatever it is, a death, a loss. It makes sense that the insanity of one reality existing and then it's gone. It's hard in our heads to go. I can't make sense of it. And again, I go, I totally get it. It makes sense you can't make sense of this. And so this process is not about helping them go forward. Like, okay, let's get you going. Good life coaching is about, hey, let's get you going. What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to get? And most of these people, it's only been a couple of weeks, are not in a state of outcome driven. They may need shelter, they may need clothing, they may need water, they may need the survival basics. And we want to make sure that we ask those questions to make sure they have that. Do you have a safe place where you're living? Yes. Do you have food? Yes. Do you have? And them making sure they have those, and you asking the question so that you know that you can support them. It's like, where can you go to get that if you don't have it? And there are crisis centers set up so people have those resources. Then you can help them, in a sense, discover or find those places. With Google or whatever, I'm in up in Washington, so I don't know what's available specifically, but I can Google really fast and go, what's the closest shelters? What's the closest resources in LA for this particular, like the Palisades? And a whole bunch of stuff's going to come up that's going to give me resources, and I can go, here's a place to go, or here's a phone number for you. Here's where people are helping other people. And so I can be that resource to the degree that I can. So we need you to, at some point, whether it's LA fires or hurricanes or earthquakes or whatever, we need to have that ability to sit and be present to people in a way that they just need someone that says, hey, I'm here with you. That's what I have to say about that. What we're talking about sometimes is when there's nowhere to go and nothing to do. And we're just sitting here going, yep, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do right in this moment, but be here and be in this experience. We're cultivating, and this is a really important element of the work that I do, is we're giving people an opportunity to experience the true essence of who they are, the direct experience of what their humanness is experiencing. And it's a shattering. And shattering, they talk about existential crisis or existential issues. But because we exist, we have these processes. We have these parts of our life that are just natural. Shatterings happen all the time. We don't recognize it, and we try to ignore and avoid and distract ourselves from the experience. But when we can, again, help people address what's it like in this moment being you, and they can go, it's fucked, or it's horrible or terrible, whatever those are. But if we can ask that question, so we allow them, we give them a safe space to go, it really is the worst of the worst of the worst. And I go, I totally get it. Not trying to fix it, not trying to heal it, not trying to make it better, not saying anything that's going to make it different than what it truly is in this moment for them. Their direct, true life experience, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. And when you can do that for people, it's a gift. So we're talking about when there's nowhere to go and nothing to do, and we're just here. I'm just here with you. I'm not going anywhere. It gives people a sense of sanity. They're not alone. And when you see, hear, and get them, they go, okay, so I'm not crazy. I just am going through something that sucks. And you go, yep, you're not crazy. It makes sense that you're feeling what you feel. Some people may get very funny and silly, like playful in the situation. In my family, I had 8 brothers and sisters, and morbid humor was just the best thing in the world for us. We just laugh and laugh at the silliest, at the worst situations, but we had the ability to laugh about it. And that took a lot of the sting and a lot of the energy that we couldn't deal any other way. We just laugh about it. So that might be a thing that people do as well. And for you and for me, for whoever who's sitting, to know there's no judgment of good, right, wrong, good, or bad. There's no right way for any of us to go through the crises we're going through. But having somebody say, hey, I get you. I get what you're going through. I get that. I've never gone through it myself, but I get it. When I was working in addictions, I would work sometimes with alcoholics who'd say, you never were an alcoholic, so you can't help me. And it's like, well, that's a perspective. It's not the truth, because I have had other experiences that parallel addictions, all kinds of addictions, or the loss or whatever drives somebody to their addictions. I know those places because I'm human. We all have them because we're all human, and we have human connections in ways that we can't even begin to address until we're willing to sit with other people in these very intimate, safe spaces. So I encourage you to reach out perhaps to people that you know, or crisis centers, or people, churches, wherever you want to if you want to support and empower, if you want to reach out and perhaps support people through life coaching, I really encourage you to do that. And if you want more training and or support in becoming a coach that can support people in crisis, I have a group of coaches that we meet, and we talk about the things that we need to shift in ourselves so that we have the capacity to bring more of this safe space and presence to people who need it, regardless of where they're at and what they're about. All right. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. If you find this valuable, please share it with others and give me a like. It's very, very valuable when you give likes and when you comment. There's also inside the descriptions, there's a place where you could leave questions if you'd like, about if you have specific challenges that you'd like me to address in these conversations. Just fill that out and or leave it in the comments below. All right. Big hugs, blessings to you, and I'll talk to you again next week. All right. Bye for now.